Welcome everyone to Carving a New Path. My name is Andrea Hyland, and I am the host of this show, the founder of Heal My Voice, and the Incubator, an online co-working space for women creatives. And I'm also an ancestral lineage healing practitioner. So the link to my website is in the show page description, along with all the other links for my guest today, who I will introduce you to in a moment. Before we do, for anyone who's new to this podcast, I want to let you know that I started the podcast in 2020, March of 2020, in response to all the change that people were experiencing. And I invited conversations and guests on this podcast, people who have listened to their inner voice, they've released things from the past, and they've birthed new ways of being in the world, which is what we all got that wake up call back in 2020. Take a look at your life. So we talk about a variety of topics, and it all comes down to ideas that you can use to carve a new path for yourself. So my guest today is Sharon Shreve, Sharon Fallon Shreve, and the topic is Ponderings. Now, this is the name of her book, Ponderings, and it is Ponderings, a collection of 144 illumined reflections. And I just wanted to say, Sharon and I met at a women's retreat about 30 years ago, and our lives have woven in and out of many circles. This is our first episode together on Carving a New Path. So I'm excited and honored to have this conversation with her today. So welcome, Sharon.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. I can't believe it's been 30 years.
I know. Well, I was thinking it was the retreat in West Virginia
Yes, with Janie Howard.
with Janie Howard, and we were all, I have so many memories of that retreat and meeting you and how wonderful, what a wonderful time of awakening it was for both of us,
It
actually.
was very special. Yes, I recall it
Mhm.
beautifully. Yeah. Mm.
So before we begin our conversation, I'm going to read some words as a way of introducing Sharon, and then we will dive into this rich topic. Yes. So, Illumined Ways is the name of Sharon Fallon Shreve's ministry. Her home, which is gorgeous, by the way, a 7-acre nature sanctuary, is known as Illuminata. And the license plate on her car reads Luminator, which is Lumn, the number 8, and R. And then across the board, Sharon embodies illumination. She is a modern day priestess whose mission is to help awaken and raise humanity's consciousness on a global level. Her passion is bringing to the forefront that which has been hidden. And this largely includes, after an absence of more than 2 millennium, shepherding the latent energy and wisdom of the divine feminine back into the 21st century. Illumination is the foundational component easily recognizable in all of Sharon's work. And for nearly 30 years, she has facilitated women's empowerment circles, counseled students, officiated ceremonies, and performed sacred rituals. Additionally, she is an ardent advocate of self-care, yay, yay, elevating humanity through example, action, speaking, and writing is what this priestess does best. So Ponderings is Sharon Fallon Shreve's first solo book. Previously, she has been published in several women's anthologies, various magazines, and newsletters. She lives outside of Washington, D.C., in historic Clifton, Virginia. So, welcome, Sharon.
Thank you. So happy to be here today with you, Andrea.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have this time with you, and I don't get to see you as often anymore, and so this felt like a real treat to be able to have this conversation with you today. And just so that the listeners know, as I said, all of the links to connect with Sharon, connect with me are in the show page, and the bio is in the show page, so that you can really, there's something about that bio that feels like reading it has an energy of its own. And so I invite you to do that, to read it again. So, what I'm thinking is we'll start with the question about what inspired you to write Ponderings, and I want to pause for a moment and say, was there something else you wanted to express before we dive into that, or are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, well, let's go for it. What inspired you to write Ponderings?
Well, there's a little story about it. I think it was on a Sunday evening. I was sitting in my lazy boy and I was just sitting there. I don't know whether I had the TV on or what, and the inspiration for pondering started to come through me. It really was a divine assignment, I want to say.
Hmm.
Um, and it was interesting because I had been praying for my next assignment. That's what I do. I pray to Spirit, what do you want me to do next? And it seemed like a long time I've been waiting and waiting without any answer. And then without any warning, this download started and the word ponderings was given to me. And also the assignment, and it would be to write a book with 144 ponderings, so to speak.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's like, wow. And the thing that most struck me about it is that it wasn't like, oh no, or I can't do that. It was, I got excited about it.
Hmm.
Rather than anxious. I got excited and the download kept coming. I was given so many of the 144 ponderings. It was very wonderful. It was wonderful. So I call it a divine assignment, a direct download from spirit, an opportunity to help raise consciousness. That's what it's all about. An
Yeah.
opportunity to help raise consciousness on our planet.
I want us to just pause for a moment and have the listeners think about that. About because you're really describing what happens when you ask a question and let's just say put it into the great mystery, the open divine, and people will have different words for that. God got us all that is. Um, but when you ask the question and then you wait and you're not grabbing for it, you're not checking the mailbox 5 times a day, you're waiting. And then the way that you were describing the divine assignment was that you knew it was a divine assignment because you got excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if you want to speak to anything else with that, because it just feels like I feel like some of the listeners have had this experience and that you talking about it is actually reminding them or validating that for them. But there also might be people who are like, what do you mean? You ask a question and then you wait for your divine assignment.
Yeah.
So, so I don't know. Do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Well, it's interesting for me that when we don't have any expectations and we don't have an attachment, to results, and like you said, we just sit and wait. Um, just out of the blue, it came out of the blue without any warning whatsoever. Like I said, a Sunday night, I'm just sitting there in the chair, and it started to come through, and I'm like, oh, and it got my attention immediately, and I'm like, oh, again, I have to reiterate how excited I became rather than anxious.
Mhm.
I think the thing I want to say to listeners is that if you have an experience like this, there's always the opportunity to accept it or not.
Mm-hmm.
We can say no, and
Mm-hmm.
often we do, because we're afraid or it feels overwhelming or we're not trusting that we're really getting a download from spirit for multiple reasons. We can say no. I
Mm-hmm.
I did not, and I'm so glad I didn't because from start to finish, it was an experience that was very blissful for me. It wasn't arduous, horrible, hard work. It was blissful. I gave myself permission to not have a timeline for it. I was just going to begin writing, and whenever it was finished, it would be finished. And I love that because that took a lot of pressure off of me
Mm-hmm.
to just work in organic time, in divine
Mm-hmm.
time. Yeah. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Love
I had,
that.
yeah, and I had a bout of serious, it was a bronchitis that took me down for a while, and I had to put things on hold. I wasn't ever nervous about it, and I never felt any urgency to
Mm-hmm.
complete it. It's just when I'm better, I'll start writing again. From
Yeah.
start to finish, it took about a year.
That's what I was going to ask you. And that's fast, actually, a
You
year
know?
to write a book. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Especially when I'm wondering, did you have things that you had written at other times or that you drew on any of, I love to ask authors this question because I feel like part of there's a process that happens in writing a book and it's a little bit different for everyone and yet there's also common themes. But I wonder, was all the material that came through something that felt original like you'd never heard it before or was there something, yeah, like how did that, was it like, oh, this is familiar, oh yes, I've spoken about this, and then you wrote about it? What can you tell us a little bit about how the information came to you?
Mostly it was from my own life experiences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It truly was. Maybe a little bit here and there I may have touched on someplace before, but mostly it was just drawing on the wisdom that I accrued from my life and meditating. I always speak about meditating. It's my life's passion, and it has brought me to where I am today. When I first learned to meditate many years ago, I was very fortunate to take to it like a duck does to water. Some people have a difficult mind. Most people do, I think, have a difficult time quieting their minds. And I did not. I was very fortunate. And the more I meditated, the more my mind expanded. And oh, I it's the foundation for my whole spiritual path, quieting my mind, meditating, getting it quiet enough so that I can listen to Spirit's voice and hear those divine directives. And,
Yeah.
and yeah, but really mostly what I wrote about is like that's how I came to be, how I lived my life, what I learned along the way. Error.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly many mistakes, but yeah, I just want to say, yeah, and it's like, you need to share this. The message was from Spirit is you need to share this, your wisdom, so it can help raise consciousness on our planet.
Yeah. So would you say that tell us a little bit more about the purpose of your book? Because I feel like you've started speaking about it in terms of an opportunity to raise consciousness. But
Mhm.
what else could you tell the listeners about what do you see as the purpose of your book?
That's really pretty much it in a nutshell, and I was told that, and I knew that already, but I was also told that by Spirit. The purpose of the book would be to help people. We're in a pretty frenetic age pace right now. I
Hmm.
say warp speed. The planet's at warp speed, and there seems to be such an urgency about life.
Hmm.
And it's hard for people, very difficult for people to stay present, to be in the now. Again, the frenetic warp speed energy, it seems like we're either, lamenting about something that happened in the past or worrying about something that might happen in the future. And it's just extremely difficult, from my perspective anyway, for most of us to stay present in the now.
Mhm.
And I think Ponderings helps to do that. One of the things I really like about it is it can be taken in little bite-sized chunks. You don't
Mhm.
have to say, I can't sit down, I don't have time to read. Well, who can't read one page a day,
Right, right.
you know? And it can be used many different ways. It can be read all the way through if you want to, or one page a day. My personal favorite way is to just randomly open up the book
Hmm.
day and see. And it's like an oracle. It's a
Yeah.
it's amazing how applicable the subject, the pondering for that day, relates to my current life and situation.
Hmm.
I love that. It feels like an oracle, like I said. That's my favorite way. So, I don't know if does that answer your question? I
No,
mean,
yeah,
raise
it
the
does.
consciousness. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm,
And I love the way that that you've invited the reader to, well, to use it as an oracle, because to me that is a way of co-creating with spirit, is like, show me what it is. Let me just open it up and here it is. And I want to just tell, I made some notes last night as I was looking at your book again. And I just want to let the listeners know, first of all, there's a wide range of topics in this book. There's 18 chapters. And just as an example, the book begins with time. And Sharon has a day around beginnings, endings, dawn, past, present, future. And she covered so many different things around, like, feelings, prophecies, seasons, realms, elements, power, inner guidance, higher power, 144 different days of where there's a quote, there's a writing from her wisdom and experience, then there's a pondering, which is a question, there's an affirmation, and then there's a space to write your reflections. So I love the way that you have shared your wisdom to help bring up, I will just say, for many people, it'll be a new perspective
mm.
on how to navigate life or how to think about life. And it's really, I really love the way that Sharon has presented her wisdom in this book for you all. Um, I'm wondering if there, I'm kind of catching you off guard with this question, but I thought about it last night. Is there a favorite section that you have or that you find yourself returning to?
I don't know about a favorite section, but one of my favorite writings is Grace.
Mm, yeah.
That really speaks to me, Grace, and so much so that I put it on my website for viewers. It's such a beautiful gift from Spirit, Grace.
Hmm.
It's a very eclectic mix, the
Yes.
144, very
Well, I
eclectic.
love that. I love that it's unpredictable. It's unexpected at times, to um for someone would open it up and see, like, oh, well, the seasons are there, but then then there's the realms. Is that
Right.
what it was called?
Realms. Yeah.
Realms.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, so I just think that there's a lot there, and it is a book for the times that we're going through. When you speak about being in the present, I mean, something that, as we're recording this, I'm in Los Angeles, 10 miles south of where there are fires.
Mm.
And one of the things that has been going on for a couple of days is that some of it's obvious that people know they're in the zone of a fire and they need to leave. and they need to pack up their car or pack up a bag and get out of there. And then there are people on the peripheral who are living in this uncertainty. Do I leave? Do I relocate? Do I, and making a plan around that. And the thing is, as much as I'm in this moment of time, we are all in this moment of time in our own way in the part of the world that we are in, that everyone is experiencing some kind of uncertainty. And I'm reminded of how last year Time magazine said that there were 64 countries that had major elections going on during 2024. And out of those elections, we would begin to see how the world was going to be because the people who were running seemed to be on one side or another. It wasn't like similar people, it was very different. And so what are we going to choose? And so I just feel like your book is a way of having not just expanding consciousness, but having what I might call an anchor or a lifeline or a place to check in. Um, yeah, and I wonder while you were writing the book, if it gave you that kind of place to check in also.
I'm not sure when I was in the midst of writing it. I was able to stay very present, which I did like that very much. Something that's interesting now, let's see, the book was published in May.
Mhm.
I have a little ritual in the morning that my husband does. He read the book and now he's rereading it. And he reads a page every morning out loud to me.
Oh,
And I
what
can't,
a great ritual. I
and
love that.
I can't tell you how excited I am every morning when he reads it to me. You will love this, Andrea. And
Uh-huh.
I'd say, you know what? That's really good.
Right, yes,
And,
yes.
and it really does lift me up.
Uh-huh.
It elevates me and it reminds me of what I wrote. And
Mhm.
I love it. I love hearing him read that to me every day. It gives me an entirely different perspective.
I love that. And that's what I was feeling like whether or not you were having that experience while you were writing it, but it makes so much sense that now that it is complete.
Yes.
That, even though you didn't have a deadline, you did have a parameter of 144. So
Yes,
you
I was given
knew,
that.
right, that there was that kind of structure. I just like to tell the creatives out here that it's good to have some kind of structure, even when you don't have a deadline or something pending with it. And that now you get to reap the benefits of the wisdom that you put into the book. And how beautiful that your husband is, that you get to hear it in his voice.
Mhm. I really, really enjoy that. That is a big
Yeah.
gift for me.
Mhm. So just for the listeners, that would be another way to use the book is read it out loud to someone, actually even read it out loud to yourself and
Yeah,
hear the words because you hear the words in a different way
you
when
do.
you speak it out loud. So
Yeah.
Sharon, I'm wondering, I was curious, why is Ponderings only offered in a hardback edition? There's no Kindle version.
Right. And there's not a paperback version either.
Right, right. So why did you decide to do it that way?
I love that you're asking me that because recently my publisher has been trying to encourage me to put it out in paperback and
Mhm.
thinking the sales would be so much better in a
Mhm.
paperback book. And I'm like, nope.
Mhm.
Because that was part of the message that I got from Spirit as well. It was to be a keepsake book. And that's the phrase I was given, a keepsake book. Keepsake book needs to be a hardback book, I think,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
because if it's a paperback, it just gets um used kind of and pages ruffled and all this. A hardback book is meant to be a keepsake book, not just for maybe one person, but for a family. And passed down from generations. That's kind of the message I got for the book. It was to be a keepsake book. So that's why I'm not open to putting it out in paperback or Kindle. People need to be able to feel
Hmm.
the hardback book and then feel I don't know, it's something about feeling.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
and I love it. I love that because there is the place to a space to write reflections. And
hmm
I love the idea that it would be something that that a family, a couple, yeah, I could see it in different ways that people could write some of their own reflections and others could write their reflections in there too. Um, or you could even interview someone in your family and write down what
oh,
they say.
wow.
Yeah.
That's a super idea. Um, one of one of the readers wrote to me that she loves writing in the book, but she does so in pencil.
Oh, interesting.
So it
Okay.
can be erased. She said,
Yeah.
I change my mind sometimes if I revisit something, I'm going to put something else in or erase. So
Mhm.
that's what one person does.
Yeah, I love that. And time, our perspectives do change, date it and then write what you wrote before and then write something else with another date. I am still going to whisper that I would love it in Kindle form because I travel, I live a house-free lifestyle and
Yes.
as much as I love my hardback books,
Mm.
it's hard to travel with a lot of hardback books. So anyway, just whisper that to you.
You're not the first one.
Okay, the Kindle, I can see not doing it as the
Paperback.
paperback,
Yeah.
but for those of us who are mobile digital
Mm.
nomads around the
Mhm.
world. Anyway, just I can put a little desire in there. And I really respect the intention that you have with it being a keepsake book and that's what you were guided to. So yay for listening to what spirit is telling you.
Yeah, I feel pretty firm on that. Like I said,
Mhm.
my publisher really is trying to change my mind. I feel very firm on that. Um, as far as making money, the book making money, more money if I put it out in Kindle or paperback, that has never been the purpose of this, never will be.
Mhm.
I likely will never recoup what I spent to have this book published, and that's okay.
Mhm.
It wasn't a book written to make profit. It was a book to help raise consciousness, as I keep saying over and over again. So that's why I'm trying to get the word out. That's why I appreciate so much the opportunity to be on your podcast and sometimes go and do little book readings and signings to help get the word out. Hopefully, people that read it and like it might consider gifting it to other people. I personally think it would make a wonderful gift. Uh,
Yes. Mhm.
yeah. So it's not about making money. So that's one of the things that's kind of tying in to not putting it in Kindle or paperback. I know I could make more money, but that's not my purpose.
No, but it would reach those of us who can't carry hard.
I know. You do have a
That's the practical reason for me
yes,
that
yes.
I respect what it is and I think that as you do book readings or podcasts to just keep reminding people that it is a keepsake book and it is meant to be something that you read over time and learn from and write your own reflections. I think that's beautiful. And that if there's a point I would say to the listeners, it's follow the place where your heart is guided and led and listen to what that is. And if it doesn't feel right when someone else is telling you how you should be doing it, then listen to yourself.
Yeah, thank you. And you
Yeah.
know what? I love that word. I love to talk about the word should. And I
Uh-huh.
know you've heard this before, I'm sure you have, preaching to the choir here.
No, hey, share it.
Instead of saying should, just change it to could.
Hmm.
In any circumstances, it makes the biggest difference in the world. Should, for me, sets up maybe the feeling that we missed the mark somehow. Like we should feel a little shame. We should have done this or we should have done that. We missed the mark, so that feels a little shameful. But if you say could, it denotes that we have a choice. I love the difference between that. I work with
Absolutely.
that a lot, yeah.
Thank you for that reminder. That's good for all of us to hear that. That's
You're
good.
right. Mm.
So, is there anything else other than I am going to just remind people where they can purchase your book? But is there anything that you want to say to kind of wrap up our time together? I cannot believe time just, whew,
Yeah, warp speed.
I know.
Yes, warp speed. I can't think of anything other than I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to be on here with you. I love connecting with you again. It's been so long.
Yeah, I
Time.
know, I know. And
Sure.
how beautiful across the country right now.
Yes,
We're on different
East and
parts.
West Coast. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. I love
So I thank you again for the opportunity and thank you to your listeners out there. I need to sign up for your podcast. I listened to a couple of things the other day and then I didn't sign up. I'm going to do that right now when we get off. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, thank you for sharing yourself so beautifully with humankind.
Hmm.
And you do that.
Thank
You
you.
know that,
Yeah.
right? Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think sometimes what we offer, we just naturally offer it. We don't think about those details, but thank you
You're
for that.
welcome. Mm.
So I know that I'm just going to ask you the question, where can listeners purchase your book? Because I know I've put some links in the show page, but is there
Yeah.
anything else? Is there a particular place you want to point people to purchase?
Amazon is where it's
Okay.
really available. Yeah. And there's a link. Like you said, you have the link. You'll be
Yep.
posting the link and you click on that link and it goes right to Ponderings.
Mhm.
Um, for those who choose to purchase the book, I thank you, thank you. And
Mhm.
if you enjoy the book and you gain some inspiration or wisdom, I would love it if you'd consider leaving a review on Amazon because that will help promote more consciousness. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. So thank you everyone for being here. And I know that just being here in the raising of consciousness in the conversation, that you're going to have that word ponderings in your mind.
Mm.
Take that with you. Check out the book, and I will see you another day. Thank you, Sharon. And thanks
Thank
to the
you,
listeners.
Andrea. Bless
Okay.
you.
And bye bye now, everyone.